So, if you're wondering what it's like to drive, well, it's pretty nice. One of the things you notice, first of all, is that the car's very low geared. It actually reminds me of Panda 4x4s, in that every gear feels one down to what you're used to. So when you're in third, it feels like second, and when you're in fourth, it feels like third. And of course, that reflects the fact that it's got quite a high revving engine. So you can make use of those gears. It does make it quite raucous if you're going along at high speeds, but that's, you know, fine. That's not really what you want. So you can see right now we're behind someone in a Mark IV Supra, and going at these kind of speeds, we're only doing about 50 down these country roads, and for him, he's just cruising along. But in this car, you really do feel like you're going some in it. I mean, I'm dropping down to fourth now and accelerating up to 60, and that's taking me up to nearly 5,000 RPM. So out here, I'd say this is the natural habitat for the car. These smaller country roads where they don't even bother with being a B road, never mind an A road. This is what it's good at, and it's great fun. And then you can come into a small village like this, just leave it in about fourth gear, and it pootles along quite happily. We're down to 30 now. And there you go. And it's fairly civilized at low speeds compared to how noisy it gets when you're up at speed and you're really cracking on. Around town it seems to be quite fine. The suspension is quite bouncy, there is quite a bit of noise there, but it's nothing truly atrocious. It's no more than you expect in any other small light car. You know, if you're driving along in something like a C1, it'd probably feel about the same. Of course, while being in the Midlands gives you the benefit of having on your doorstep plenty of country roads, the weather in December isn't exactly Saharan, and with dark clouds coming in, I was soon left with some rather wet and muddy roads. But every problem is also an opportunity, and I've got a car with both four-wheel drive and tyres that claim to prioritise wet weather performance. So how does it fare? Well, it's actually pretty good. There's not really a tangible delay in the viscous coupling engaging if you put your foot down in a situation with low front end grip, and pulling away from wet junctions doesn't result in a load of uncouth scrabbling from the front wheels. Obviously the car is hardly kicking out a ridiculous amount of power, and what I'm doing here involves neither a truly minimal traction scenario or particularly hard driving, so you shouldn't really expect any revelations on that front anyway. What are my current feelings on the car overall? First off, yeah, it's brilliant fun, especially when you find yourself making use of the rev range as you go up the gears. It might not be particularly refined, but for a 20-year-old lightweight car, it's not terrible either, and a certain amount of noisiness is all part of the old school performance hatch experience. Is it a performance hatch? Well, yes and no. It's not actually that fast, and in a world of Golf Rs and AMG A45s, it seems a little silly to label a 64 horsepower city car as that. But it has this fantastic scrappy-do attitude when you point it down a road and the car doesn't care that it's tiny and low-powered. It just wants you to get on with it and encourages you to enjoy yourself while masking how quickly you aren't actually going.
So with the car downright filthy after a mere couple of hours out in the boonies, I was going to go home and give it a wash and write up some notes for making this video. And then of course a day or so later we got some snow, so I had to go out and try it in that. I was really impressed with how the car behaved on the blanket of white stuff now coating those same country roads. I mentioned earlier how the low gearing on the car reminds me of the old Panda 4x4s, and that's also the case with the way it drives on snow and ice. The car feels pretty neutral, and while the inherent characteristic as you run out of grip is initial understeer, it will step out of the back if told to. It doesn't feel like you're just driving a front wheel drive car with a token amount of extra rear drive. I don't know how much lockup the viscous coupling actually gives, but certainly you can't accuse the system of just being a gimmick for the sake of it. Being a very light car with narrow tyres, something like this is always going to be a solid choice for driving in the snow, and the four-wheel drive on top of that is an added bonus. I'd be really interested in adding some proper winter tyres into the mix, at which point I'd imagine your biggest concern is going to be if conditions got to the point where you're simply running out of ground clearance. So, now the car's back on the road, am I finished with it? Probably not. I haven't really addressed anything bodywork wise, and I have a few minor details that I'd like to look into. But I think any work on the cosmetics of the exterior will have to wait until we're back into having warmer weather, and in terms of the objective of rescuing the car and bringing it back into use, yes, I've achieved what I set out to do. Thank you for joining me on this project, and please like, comment and subscribe below so you can keep abreast of what I do with this or my other cars going forward.